Dustgrave is a sandbox RPG, and the basic premise is that you're adventuring in a world where the empire is falling apart due to a plague and internal conflicts. You can choose from some preset characters and theoretically do whatever you want. Join factions, fight people, steal stuff. The game has a turn-based combat system where you can combine different skills and items, and there is also a stealth system for sneaking around, stealing and assassinating people. Now this all sounds great on paper, but unfortunately my early game experience was lacking in several aspects. But starting with the positive stuff. One of the more interesting aspects is how the world supposedly reacts to your actions. Now while I didn't extensively test this, every major thing you do gets recorded, and NPCs will respond differently based on their personality and faction alignment. And based on the things I have seen, this one mostly seems to be working properly. The game has about 9 different factions you can either join or fight against, but unfortunately many things in this game become a bit disappointing in practice, because the ideas themselves sound good, but the actual implementations need a lot of work in my eyes. The user interface is particularly problematic. There's no tooltip system for many things, which means you are often left guessing what items and abilities actually do. And in general, I found the interface just not easy to understand. A good user interface should tell you what you need to know without asking too much from the player, and I find this is not the case here, and also not really easy on the eyes. I found myself completely lost in the first 2 hours of playing, more often than not, and the pacing felt kinda odd. Now this is not the intended kind of feeling lost that you sometimes purposely get in other games, but instead a rather frustrating or irritating lost. The inventory system doesn't have basic features that most RPGs have for many years now. Simple things like comparing items or even equipping gear are more complicated than they need to be. Something that is probably pretty subjective, but hindered me personally from getting invested and immersed, is that the world itself doesn't feel truly open. It's broken up by loading screens, and that breaks my immersion. I know that some games do this on purpose, traveling on the world map to then visit various instanced settlements, but it didn't really click for me here. I would have preferred a seamless open world for this sandbox RPG. Content-wise, there's still a lot to do. They have around 100 dynamic quests, 11 skill trees, and hundreds of items. Their settlements can apparently be conquered by different factions, get destroyed, or get rebuilt over time. They are planning to add more content during early access, but I think it is of paramount importance that the existing features and substance gets improved drastically before adding new stuff, because no good comes from having so many interesting features when the core of the game just isn't fun enough. I also think that adding more responsiveness to the entire thing, like some sound effects when doing certain stuff, is also important, I think, because often when you do something, there's just no auditory feedback. It is worth noting that this is being developed by a small indie team, but the price tag here is $22, and there are just way too many great games out there that are both cheaper and vastly superior in terms of quality. So right now it feels like a game with good ideas, but lacks polish and basic quality of life features. And that sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.